Hi everybody. Okay, welcome to day 17 of rebuilding your temple immune system. So normally I have been getting on and I've been typing up different posts for each day that talks about a different topic on how we can rebuild our immune system. Today I had kind of an important topic and I didn't want to type something up that might have gotten just skimmed over or not read, because it's very important and it is a little bit technical, but I wanted to kind of go through it to make sure that everybody understands it because it's so important. So we have been talking the last several days about different things in the immune system. We started out with what the immune system is and how it works, and we kind of talked about the microbiome and the fact that a good portion of the immune system lives there. We also talked about detoxification and how the toxic load and toxicity can affect your immune system. We've talked about so many different things. Today I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, but transition into something else. So today I wanted to talk about a topic called methylation. And methylation, what is methylation? It's basically a biochemical process in your body. It's something that takes place in every cell tissue in your body. So it's important, okay? Methylation is when your body there's these methyl groups, okay? And I have a little thing here. So methyl groups, these are little methyl groups, okay? Like it's one carbon with 3 hydrogen atoms, and they form little groups. So what these groups do is they are transferred in your body from one substance to another, but they're kind of like little spark plugs. And so when this transfer happens, when you transfer this methyl group, it kind of ignites or activates a biochemical process in the body. And sometimes that has to do with like detoxification is one of them, fat metabolism, estrogen metabolism, different things in the body that happen based on these this methylation process of transferring methyl groups. So basically, the more methyl groups you have, the better your methylation process is working, the more things in your body are going to be activated, the more things are going to go right. So methyl groups, that methylation process even has the ability to turn on genes, or turn on good genes, turn off bad genes. So it's not just activating things, but it can turn off bad things. So the methylation process is very, very important. So having enough methyl groups helps the body methylate, if that makes sense. So we need these little guys, these methyl groups. They're important. So throughout this video, I'm going to go back to these guys, but just these are important. Now, when you talk about methylation, so obviously the better you methylate, the better, the healthier your body's going to be. So when we talk about methylation, there's certain things that your body needs in order to create that biochemical process. And there's a lot of different things that go into it, but one of the main ones that I want to talk about today is vitamin B9. So vitamin B9, folic acid, is kind of the fuel for methylation. So your body needs vitamin B9 in order to have that process, to create that process, to methylate. If you don't have enough vitamin B9, you don't have enough fuel for methylation to take place, meaning you won't have enough methyl groups that are like spark plugs initiating enough activity. So that's key. Now, when it comes to vitamin B9, vitamin B9, folic acid is sometimes called, there is a good percentage of people who don't have enough B9 or can't use B9. And it all comes down to a gene in our body called the MTHFR gene. Now, the MTHFR gene sounds like a swear word. It's not. It codes, or it's the instructions for the MTHFR enzyme that basically tells your body how to process or convert vitamin B9 into a usable form. So your body has to kind of go through this process in order to be able to use B9. Like if you just folic acid on its own as is, your body can't use that. It has to take it through a process and break it down so that it is something that's usable. Now, when we're talking about the MTHFR gene, there are people who have a MTHFR genetic mutation. Okay, so that means that their body does not have the ability or cannot break that down as well, depending on what type of mutations and how many mutations. So when you're talking about the MTHFR gene, you can have multiple mutations on that gene depending on where they're at. Now, as we know, we get 2 copies of genes, so we get one from each of our parents. So if you have an MTHFR gene mutation, and you just got, say, 1 mutation from your mom, but the other one from your dad is okay. So that would be 1 mutation. That would be a heterozygous mutation on 1 location. Now, if you were to inherit mutations in that 1 location from both parents, that would be a homozygous mutation. So you would have 2 mutations in that 1 location on that gene. You could also have 1 mutation on 1 location, another mutation on another location. And so each of these kind of will tell your body how to break down vitamin B9, but based on the number of mutations and the locations of the mutation, that's going to inhibit how your body can utilize B9. So just to give you an example, it's been said that if you have 1 mutation in 1 location, your ability to break that down or to methylate can be decreased by 30%. So just that 1 mutation alone, if it can decrease your methylation by 30%, and methylation, remember, takes place in every cell, in every tissue in your body. So even just 30%, that's substantial. Now, if you have 2 mutations on the same location in the MTHFR gene, it can inhibit and decrease your methylation by 70%. Okay, that's huge. That is huge, especially, like I said, when you're thinking about the gravity of methylation and what it does. Methylation, it activates activities in your body that are not just, they're everywhere. Cardiovascular, your immune system, your brain, all of these, your hormones, all of these different bodily processes and things that happen behind the scenes in the body have a methylation process to them. So when you're talking about not being able to give that process enough fuel through vitamin B9, that's substantial. Now, vitamin B9, it breaks down to what's called methylfolate, and that's the usable form. So when your body has enough of that fuel, it's able to methylate properly, right? You have enough of those methyl groups, you're producing enough of these methyl groups, these little spark plugs, right? To where you're creating enough chemical reactions in your body for your body to do what it needs to do. If you are not, say you're 30%, 70% decreased because of this genetic mutation, that means you're producing 70% less methyl groups. You're having 70% less methylation, excuse me. So all of these different processes are going to be affected by that. So it's not going to be just limited to, well, I can't methylate. I have a whatever mutation, I can't detox, and then it's limited to that. It might be, well, I can't detox, I can't metabolize estrogen, I have different problems with homocysteine. So homocysteine is a very toxic amino acid, and methylation can break that down. The methylation process will break that down and convert it into a non-toxic or a non-harmful amino acid. And that's important because elevated homocysteine has been a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, dementia, all kinds of different things, strokes. So these are very important things. Now, when we're talking about the immune system, methylation is very, very important to cellular detoxification. And we've been talking the last several days about why that's important, because we don't want to have that be overburdened in our body with the high toxic load. But it also, it supports the immune system directly. And when we're talking about things nowadays, like when it comes to viruses and stuff, the methylation process is also very important for that and has a specific role in that. So I'm gonna get out my little thing here. I got it in my kids' craft closet. So I have a little diagram for you here, a little foam ball with some toothpicks sticking out. Super fancy. But anyways, say this is a coronavirus, okay? We know that the coronavirus has, that's why it's named this, because it has things that protrude like a crown, right? So we know that this is how it's shaped. So when you're talking about the coronavirus, having the coronavirus inside of our bodies, having it present does not necessarily automatically mean we have an infection, okay? We have all kinds of viruses, all kinds of bacteria, yeast, things inside of us at all times. They only become problematic in the body when, for example, a bacterial overgrowth, when it's able to proliferate and grow faster than what the good bacteria in the body can handle, or what the immune system can handle. That becomes an infection because it takes over the body. Same with yeast infection, things like that. They proliferate and grow. Viruses can be in the body, and they become an infection, so to speak, when they replicate over and over, okay? So they enter the cell and they are able to replicate. And they then take over different parts of the body, different cells. So that replication is what begins the infection. So it's not just having the presence of the virus inside of us that is problematic. Now, when we're talking about methylation and methyl groups, so the coronavirus, okay, has these receptors on it. And methyl groups, okay, here's our methyl groups. Methyl groups, when they are transferred to a virus, let's do this, okay, methyl group there, that's 1 carbon, 3 hydrogen. When we start doing this to the virus, these methyl groups cause a chemical reaction, just like they do in other parts of the body. So like I said, with genes, these methyl groups have the ability to what? Turn genes on and off, right? They have the ability to break down homocysteine, turn it into a non-harmful amino acid. When we're talking about this virus here, these methyl groups come in and they can attach on these receptor sites and they can silence the virus, okay? They can silence it so that it is not able to then attach, okay, because these are silenced. And when it can't attach, it can't replicate. So it's preventing it, it's silencing it by preventing it from replicating. And when it silences it this way, then the immune system is able to do its thing, okay? The immune system sees it, the immune system's gonna come, it's gonna do its thing, and it's gonna get rid of the virus. Now, when we have people who are immunocompromised and have various predispositions, okay, oftentimes in many of the things that they are listing, these are a direct correlation to an inability to methylate, okay? So the body is not able to perform these chemical reactions and do what it needs to do. So the body then becomes, immunity is affected, detoxification is affected, and then we have all these predispositions. And then so when we come in contact with a virus like this, it has a greater chance of replication and infection and severe symptoms because of the state of the body. Now, when we look at this and we look at the methyl groups and the virus, obviously, the more methyl groups we have, the better able we are to silence the virus, to enable the immune system to do what it needs to do to get rid of the virus. So a lot of times this is where you see people who they might test positive for the virus, but they have no symptoms. They have, now yes, there's that incubation period there before they will have symptoms, but there are people who have it and never get symptoms. And a lot of times this is why. So your body is able to do something to it before it's able to do something to you, so to speak. You know what I mean? So when you have enough methyl groups to silence the presence of the virus in you, however much you have in you, then you're good to go, right? When you are lacking methyl groups and your body cannot methylate and produce these, so then we have a virus. I just took a receptor site out. Then we have another receptor site. So then we have the inability to silence it, okay? Then the virus kind of has free reign in the body because then it can attach, it can begin to replicate, it can begin to take over healthy cells, and there you have a viral infection taking over the body. So when we look at methylation as part of that thing to help rebuild the temple immune system, it has many factors to it because yes, the process of a methylation by itself, it does support the immune system. It does support cellular detoxification and breaking down homocysteine and all these other things that are going to, put stress on the body and indirectly weaken the immune system. But it also has a very unique and direct effect on viruses. So when we're talking nowadays about viruses, this is super important. So how then do you increase your methylation? Ironically or naturally, you're going to think to yourself, okay, well, if I need to increase methylation, then I need to increase the methylation fuel, which is vitamin B9. So a lot of times what people do then is they go out and they buy folic acid as a supplement, and they begin to take that. Now, if you look at the MTHFR gene mutation that I talked about, taking folic acid when you have a genetic mutation preventing you from breaking down folic acid, one is not going to be of much benefit because your body can't use that. It can't make it. It can't turn it from folic acid into methylfolate. So you're going to, at best case scenario, you're going to pee it out. Worst case scenario, some research is suggesting that high levels of folic acid in people with MTHFR genetic mutations can actually be toxic if they can't get rid of it. So both ends of the spectrum, either way, it's not helping methylation. It's important then to look for methylated B9, methylfolate that's already in its usable form. The one that I take every single day, Plexus X Factor Plus, because it has that in it. Now, there's also other things that acts as fuel for methylation, other B vitamins, vitamin D, curcumin, which is a compound in turmeric. So there's different things that you can also take, and X Factor has the vitamin D and the other methylated Bs. So that's another reason why I take that. There's also, when you look at turmeric or curcumin, it's important to not just go out and get whatever you can find turmeric, but taking it with black pepper, cooking with it with black pepper, because it helps release that. So it makes it more usable for you. But these are things that have to be taken into consideration. And now maybe you're thinking, well, you know, it's a genetic mutation. That sounds kind of rare. How often does that really happen? Actually, research for a while has indicated that at least 60% of people have at least one MTHFR mutation that they inherited from one parent. More recent research is actually indicating or hinting at that it might be substantially higher. So they're actually talking about even 80% could have at least one mutation, which makes sense because if you think about it, if you think about the fact that we inherit these from parents, so one parent might have a mutation, another parent has a mutation, then all of a sudden the child obviously does as well, and then you go down the line generation after generation, it naturally is going to evolve and increase that more and more people end up with genetic mutations. So this I've done a lot with, even in just my personal life, because my husband and I both have genetic mutations, MTHFR. And so when I was going through different things with each of my kids, different health issues, my youngest daughter, Lyme disease, just different phases of their health journey. This was something that I had to take in consideration. And it was probably one of the most eye-opening and, I guess, effective things that I did for them, because if you think about, for example, my youngest daughter, you know, she struggled with Lyme disease for a long time, and she has had problems detoxifying, and I suspected this with her, and so we did genetic testing on all 6 of us, actually, and I specifically looked at their MTHFR, and each of my kids have different mutations, and some are pretty severe, which inhibits their methylation process. My one daughter not only has multiple MTHFR mutations, but she also has a mutation in a gene that affects her ability to produce vitamin D. So her methylation is severely impacted. And so by knowing that, you know, some people are like, well, it's just my genes, I'm doomed, right? No, especially when it comes to these things, because we can supplement, and if our body can't do it on its own, we can help it along, right? We can supplement with methylfolate to help the methylation process go. Take more vitamin D if that's one of them. So these are types of things we can do to kind of help the body along. It's not that we're doomed. It's not that we're doomed because of our genes. So today, like I said, day 17 of rebuilding your temple immune system. I did not want to type all this up with all this MTHFR and methyl groups and everything. I wanted to chit chat with you and kind of explain it. I'm going to post in another post following this different things about the B vitamins, the Plexus X Factor Plus specifically, as well as the turmeric and the vitamin D. I will also post a couple studies that kind of further talks about what I've been talking about, in case some of you guys out there that need proof of what I'm saying is real. I will share with you the studies that have pretty much confirmed what I'm saying. And if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to reach out. But this is really, really, really important, because we can do a whole heck of a lot. Everything that we've been talking about for the last 16 days. You know, we work on our microbiome, we're making sure we're taking probiotics, eating fibers and prebiotics, reducing our toxic load, all of these different things. But if our body isn't methylating, and if it doesn't have the materials needed for the methylation fuel, it's still going to be severely